Buenas tardes, chicos. Soy Profe Young. Today we're going to talk about verbos regulares en el presente. So as you are working on your Quien Soy Yo project, to support that, you're going to need to be able to use regular verbs in the present. So verbos regulares en el presente. Most likely you remember a few things about this from Spanish 1, but this is just a general review to make sure that you got it down. Here we go. So conjugation, what is it? So verbs, in every language, but particularly in Romance languages, are acted upon by a subject. So we'd say, I talk. And the I changes the way we conjugate or change verbs to make them match their subjects. So we're going to get some practice with that today. That's what conjugation is. You probably remember that from Spanish 1. So in Spanish, there are three different types of verbs. Verbs end in AR, ER, and IR. Actually, there's lots of different types of verbs, but regular verbs, three different types of verbs end in AR, ER, and IR. They don't end in anything else other than those three things. And each of those types mean that they're going to have a different kind of ending, and we'll talk about what that means. When you have an AR verb, for example, you're going to conjugate it with different endings than you would an ER verb, which will have different endings than an IR verb. So let's jump right in. The verb hablar, which means to speak in Spanish, there's a lot going on here, so let's break it down. So hablar is an example of an AR verb. Yeah, it's an example of an AR verb. So that means that I've color-coded it here. So I've took the AR and I put it in red, and the rest of it, what you see here in green, is what we call the root or the stem of the verb. So that means that when we have a subject, like an I or a you or he or she or we, you're going to change it differently. You're always going to use that root, that green part, and you'll see that all the way through here, right? We use the green part, it's all the same, all the way through. And then you're just going to take off that AR and you're going to put on a different ending. So for AR verbs, you can notice that they always end, you follow the red all the way through there, you have O, as, a, amos, and an, always with that habla to start. So, yo hablo, tú hablas, él, ella o usted habla, nosotros hablamos, ellos, ellas, or ustedes. That UDS stands for ustedes hablan. So I've jumped way in here, way fast, and this is an example of an AR verb conjugation. Some of you are probably like, oh yeah, I remember this stuff from Spanish 1. Some of you are like, what is going on? So just to take a step back, so let's take a step back. Do you remember these things, right? Yo means I. Tú is the informal way to say you, like between friends. Él is he, ella is she. Usted is you, right? As opposed to tú, which is also you. Usted is used with people in authority or elders, people who in a more formal way. Nosotros means we, ellos means they in a masculine way, ellas means they in a feminine, and ustedes means y'all. Okay? So as we apply those, you don't actually have to use them every time. So when I put these in order, this would be like yo and on through, right? So I'm not going to write them every time. This is an example of an ER verb. Again, I've taken off the ending. We identify it as an ER verb, and we find the root, and then the root gets put in all the way through, right? And in this case, we have all of the ER verbs are going to end in O, S, E, hemos, and en. Right? So yo leo, tú lees, ella lee, nosotros leemos, ellos leen, ustedes leen. Okay? So again, example of an AR verb is different than an ER. Remember that AR verb had ended o, as, a, amos, an. ER verb ended in e, o, s, e, hemos, en. Okay? ER verbs are similar. There's the verb escribir. Oh, by the way, leer means to read, yeah? So escribir, again, we find what type of verb it is. We find out it's an IR verb, which means that we take that off first, and we find the root, and that root is going to go for all of our conjugations. Okay? You say yo escribo, tú escribes, escribe, escribimos, and escriben. And those endings, again, we're going to find out O, S, E, a little bit different than ER, right? Because it has the nosotros as imos and en. Okay? So again, we've seen AR verbs, an example being hablar, O, as, a, amos, an. We've seen ER verbs, which is O, S, E, hemos, en. And we have IR verbs, which is O, S, E, imos, en. Here are some examples in context. So we have ella habla con sus amigos. So because it was ella, we knew that we had to put in the ella form of the verb. habla. Ella habla con sus amigos. Ustedes escriben, because it was ustedes, we knew that it had to have that en ending. Okay? Yo escucho, here's the verb, we knew that it had to end in o. Tú lees, we knew that it had to act on leer by saying lees, muchos libros, and nosotros estudiamos, we knew that the nosotros meant that we had to put that amos ending on the end there. So hopefully that's making some sense. I know we're moving quickly, but it should be a review for you. If it's really difficult, I would watch this video again. Okay. So some verbs to get started with. We have hopefully verbs that you know from last year or need to be refreshed about. Hablar, escribir, leer, escuchar, mirar, aprender, comprender, estudiar, comer, vivir, bailar, cantar, tomar y compartir. So we have to speak, to write, to read, to listen, to watch, or to view, to learn, to understand, to study, to eat, to live, to dance, to sing, to take or to eat or drink, and then compartir is to share. So hopefully those will help you get started. So now I think it'd be a good idea for you to practice, a practicar. So write 5 sentences right there in your notes to practice using some of these verbs in personal ways or speaking about others, just to practice the idea of conjugation of regular verbs in el presente. I would recommend, because this went fast, if you have had difficulty with conjugation in the past, feel free to sort of keep this as a favorite video to go back to it, because it's sort of a baseline for a lot of the other grammar work that we're going to be doing in our class. Feel free to watch it a couple times if you didn't quite get it, and to do this work. If you're ready to roll, then be ready to roll. I'll check those notes on Friday. Muchas gracias y hasta luego. Nos veremos mañana. Chao.